Good evening. This is the Beavercreek Board of Zoning Appeals monthly meeting or special meeting for this case tonight. I don't know how many times you have participated in these type of cases, but the way we like to run it is we will have who is speaking for the case when we're asking for public testimony to come and explain what the application is for. And then we would ask, after all testimony for the application is complete, we would open it up for those who wish oppose. After that, we close it to the public and we discuss it amongst ourselves for voting. So the very first thing we need to do, though, we have to take roll.
Mr. Huntsman?
Here.
Ms. Cotwell?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here. So just quickly, this is a great time to announce that we do have two new board members with us as alternates, Joe Jenkins and Jeff Roberts. So they'll be joining us. They were sworn in today. They were approved earlier last month. So to finish the roll, Mr. Roberts.
Here.
And Mr. Jenkins.
Here.
Thank you. If you're all ready, I'm going to go ahead and start by reading the public notice.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to have the agenda put in?
Oh, sure. Yes. Don makes a good point. Can we just quickly approve the agenda? A motion to approve the agenda.
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, board. So I will begin by reading the public hearing notice. The purpose of the hearing is so that the Board of Zoning Appeals may review and act on a request made by K4 Properties LLC on behalf of and with consent of property owners Kerwin Pink LLC and Kerwin Red LLC for two parcels. Those are B03 0002 0043 0015 400 and B03 0002 0043 0015 300. That is to allow a conditional use on those mentioned parcels. The parcels are located along the north side of Dayton Xenia Road, east of the crossing at Treybine Road. The parcels are currently part of the Stonehill Village Plan Unit Development, which is zoned PUD RB or residential and business. I have prepared a staff report,
Please.
for the board. So just a quick introduction. Again, the applicant in this case is K4 Properties LLC. They do have the consent of property owners Kerwin Red and Kerwin Pink. There are affidavits included with the packet. And they are requesting the approval of a conditional use. We already identified the parcel numbers and their location. It's located along the south side of Overbrook Boulevard. So that's the new boulevard that was built off of Treybine Road. Again, their zoning designation PUD residential and business. And the applicant is requesting the conditional use of self-storage facilities. So it's important to note that the conditional or the use of the land use of self-storage facilities is listed as a conditional use in the B2 zoning district in the zoning resolution. And the zoning resolution, which most recently modified the Stonehill Village PUD, indicates that all B2 uses are allowable uses within this zone, within this area of the Stonehill Village PUD. So when we're talking about conditional use in general, we want to look at a couple of considerations. So the determination, again, of permitted and conditional uses for the Stonehill Village PUD starts again with the trustee resolution, which most recently modified it. That's resolution number 2016-101. Within this document, it's noted that B2 business districts uses will be included in the specific section of Stonehill Village where the conditional use is proposed. If you refer to Table 2 of the Township Zoning Resolution, self-storage facilities are listed as a conditional use. The intent of designating a use as conditional is to allow the use, assuming sufficient conditions can be made and met, such that the use does not negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the township and its residents. Conditional use allowances should only be denied if they might create risks to health, safety, and welfare, and if no suitable conditions to the use being allowed are feasible. If a conditional use allowance is granted for these parcels, the proposed use will still need to appear before the zoning commission and the township trustees for approval of a specific site plan. That's by virtue of them being located in a PUD. So detailed technical information like the exact locations of ingress, egress, where parking and buildings are going to be located on the site, screening requirements, that is the correct venue for those items to be discussed. This is more about the generalized use of the land for self-storage. And again, those technical details are scrutinized at a higher level at a specific site plan. I can tell you that those will be extensively reviewed at that process, and they do need to, again, be approved by zoning commission and the board of trustees. So there are some interesting site challenges with this location. I'm going to bring up a map here. Here we go. So this was given by the applicant as a very rough idea to get you oriented with the site and where perhaps some buildings might be located. The green area is the buildable lot, essentially. Some of these whited out areas are not developable because they either serve as stormwater infrastructure, or just the topography of the land surrounding certain areas is not suitable for development. Basically, you'll see that these red lines represent the locations of essentially storage buildings that will serve as, you know, in the applicant's mind, the kind of the outer shell. I'll show you some pictures that they provided as well to give you an idea of what they are proposed to look like. But it's important to note that these site challenges that we're talking about, for instance, this large stormwater facility right here, it really does kind of cut the site in half. It makes it a little bit challenging to develop. I only say that because the ingress, egress, some of these things will have to be modified based on the site. That's not a huge concern for the BZA, but it's important to note as we're discussing whether or not a conditional use should be allowed. So the site, again, is interrupted also by a single residential parcel. So that would be the other site challenge that we're looking at. This whited out area surrounded by blue is not part of the Stonehill Village PUD. It's zoned A1 agricultural, and it does function as a true agricultural parcel. It's not zoned ag and is only residential. There are chickens, turkeys, pigs. It is a functioning farm. I say that to say that it interrupts the site, and typically when we would look at uses that are not the same next to one another, adjacent to one another, we would talk about screening. I just want to get that out of the way, that the Township Zoning Resolution has a table that indicates what level of screening is required between different uses. Between B2 and A1 agricultural, there is no screening requirement. So we are not recommending any required screening at the time. It's my understanding that the applicant plans to provide some form of barrier to protect their own investment from, errant farm animals and things like that. Okay, so what are some of the potential concerns that we want to look at as we're considering this use? So staff looked at a couple of different factors. The first one being ingress, egress. Even though we're not approving where ingress, egress goes, I think it's important, if we were to allow conditional use, to at least look into whether or not we think ingress, egress would be possible and safe. I do think that's the case. So a traffic impact study was actually conducted for the construction of Overbrook Boulevard, which is going to be its primary entrance area. That was done by the county engineer's traffic advisor. The result of the study indicates that Overbrook Boulevard, as it's currently configured, is suitable for a full build out of not just this parcel, but everything to the north. That whole section basically west of Treybine and east of the Coy Treybine Elementary Building. That chunk of Stonehill Village can be served by Overbrook Boulevard even at full build out. So we're not concerned that the introduction of this as a use would cause traffic jams or that there is inadequate infrastructure. We think the infrastructure is adequate. So one thing that we should note is that there will never be ingress or egress from Dayton Xenia Road to this parcel, to this, they're never going to have an entrance off Dayton Xenia. That's a county road, and we've already kind of discussed that with the engineer. There will not be any potential for that, so that should not be a concern for us. The second kind of potential concern that we want to look at when we're really talking about any development, but is stormwater. So the proposed use includes significant impervious surface coverage. It's going to have a lot of asphalt. It's going to have buildings. However, during the specific site plan approval process, care will be taken to ensure that any proposed stormwater infrastructure will sufficiently handle any additional stormwater runoff generated by the proposed use. So to ensure this, staff would direct the applicant to adhere to all EPA stormwater management requirements. The agency responsible for compliance in Greene County for that is the Greene County engineer. So whether it be through a condition imposed or whether it be through staff's administration of the specific site plan approval process, we believe that stormwater is not a concern, that it will be managed properly. Again, we talked about screening a little bit. We think that the way the applicant has described it to us means that the outbuildings will serve as a form of screening from Dayton Xenia and Treybine Road. However, it's really important to note that there are no screening requirements for this use next to any of the other adjacent uses. Across the street, it is still zoned business. So again, B2 with B2 would not be a required screening either. So again, I don't believe that any conditions need to be imposed on this use for screening. The specific site plan will address any extant screening issues that might arise. For instance, from the entrance at Treybine and Overbrook. Things like that might come up. But I do not see a need to impose a condition for that. And then the fourth issue, or the fourth possible concern, is the use compatible in character with surrounding uses. So the proposal voluntarily includes some aesthetic considerations at the expense of the applicant, such as high quality facade materials, design considerations for the structures that face out to customers or to major roads like Treybine and Dayton Xenia. The applicant did include some concept photos that I'm just going to bring up now. They were included in your packet. This is essentially the rough visual aesthetic that the applicant will be trying to achieve with these outbuildings that face Dayton Xenia and Treybine. It is meant to look very much like a horse farm or a stable. And then these would be the inner style buildings, very much your typical self-storage building look, kind of hidden by these nicer outbuildings. So that is the rough understanding of the site that our meetings with the applicant has kind of led us to our understanding. So self-storage, I know there are some, because I've been here for a couple of years, when self-storage comes up, people tend to, have an automatic response of concern, but self-storage is vital to residents of Beavercreek Township. There are existing self-storage areas. They are well full. Phillips is building new buildings every year. They're building another building for storage. People want this, and especially residents of Beavercreek Township, who on average have higher incomes than Greene County and Ohio. They have some of that expendable income that would allow them to make use of self-storage space. So, I don't think it's germane to the conversation to talk about, is self-storage a good use of the property. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about conditional use approvals. It's really, is there anything that would directly impact the health, safety, and welfare of Beavercreek Township residents? But I wanted to bring that, I just wanted to bring that up right at the forefront. So staff does have some recommendations. So the first one we would, well, first of all, let me just say, staff recommends approving the conditional use application with a few conditions. And the conditions we want to talk about are listed below. The first one would be that no ingress or egress from Dayton Xenia Road would be permitted in service of the proposed use. Ingress egress for the site must be approved by Township Public Service staff, that's our road department designation, during the specific site plan hearing process. So that would just be, during that specific site plan process, we would introduce something, a memo from our Public Service Department that said, we've reviewed the ingress egress proposal and we think it's okay. The second one would be that any development of the site must comply with all applicable EPA stormwater management regulations. During the specific site plan hearing, the developer must document a plan for stormwater management, which has been reviewed by the county engineer and found to be compliant with EPA requirements for site development. That is already a requirement of specific site plan applications. But it doesn't hurt to include it as a condition here, just to make sure that there is no question as to whether or not that needs to happen for the proposed use. The third condition that we recommended was, it was recommended, we moved this hearing from its original date in March. Since then, I've been able to meet with the applicant and got a better understanding of what their plan is for, fencing between them and the existing agricultural use. I don't believe this third recommendation, which I originally included about screening, is necessary based on what I now understand about the applicant's plans, and also further review of the zoning resolution again indicates that no screening is required. So based on those two things, I do not propose any kind of screening condition be placed on this approval if you so choose to make it. So that is my staff report. I'd be glad to take any questions you might have about the report, or any other questions you might have about the site before we open it up to public comments and things like that.
I think it's, good report. I would go ahead and open up the public portion and let them expand.
Sure.
Okay. Well, with that stated, who would like to speak for the case? Okay. Okay. Come up to the podium and read the oath.
Just very quickly, I'd like to note that the applicant asked that we have some slides prepared for when they're speaking, so that's what you're seeing on your screens right now.
Thank you.
I, Kimberly Kretz of 1202 Stallion Run, Beavercreek Township, Ohio, solemnly swear that the statements I'm about to make before the Beavercreek Township Board of Zoning Appeals are the truth to the best of my knowledge and belief.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kim Kretz with K4 Properties LLC, and like I just said, my address is 1202 Stallion Run, Beavercreek Township, Ohio. I am excited about the opportunity to build yet another family-owned business in Beavercreek Township. As some of you may remember, we came before this board roughly 10 years ago when we built our first self-storage facility at 580 South Orchard Lane, directly across from the Ankeny Soccer Complex, where we spent countless days and weekends as parents at soccer practices, games, and tournaments. With the township's partnership and our extraordinary customers who we became and remain friends with today, we grew that facility into one of the most successfully family-owned self-storage facilities in Beavercreek Township, catering to the self-storage needs of local families and businesses, nonprofit organizations, military members on the move, and our large veteran population returning to the Beavercreek and surrounding area to retire. We sold that facility in 2017 and have missed the business and customers ever since. I am here today with our civil engineer, Mitch Kostler, and Bob and Mary Nutter, the current owners of the subject property, to respectfully request your approval of what may be a new state-of-the-art, full-service indoor self-storage facility to be located in the southeast section of the Bluegrass Crossing specific site plan, situated between Overbrook Boulevard and Dayton Senior Road, just east of the Coy Trabine School on the west side of Trabine Road. As you will see, we have worked closely with Bob and Mary and understand their vision for Stonehill Village and how this project will both complement the community and serve the needs of the residents of Stonehill Village and beyond. Our vision for this facility is a bit different than the facility we built on Orchard Lane. This facility will be designed such that northbound and southbound traffic on Trabine and eastbound and westbound traffic on Hilltop and Dayton Senior Road will recognize the architecture and color scheme of the buildings as that of one of the most famous horse farms in Kentucky, Calumet Farms of Lexington, the farm that Stonehill Village was modeled after. You need to look no further than what we residents of Stonehill Village refer to as the barn, or the center, or the clubhouse, at 1300 Short Hill Drive. I feel compelled to note that I said we. That's right, my husband and I live in the White Barn Trail section of Stonehill Village, and we will drive by this facility every day. This is actually our second time owning a home in Stonehill Village. We built a home on Huntland Court North before moving to the south side of Beavercreek Township, then missed the community so much we moved back. We want this facility in this corner of Beavercreek Township to be something special. As for our commitment to you, Beavercreek Township, and to Bob and Mary Nutter, we have contracted Mitch Kostler to perform our civil engineering for the site. No one knows Beavercreek Township, let alone this site, better than Mitch. Mitch designed Overbrook Boulevard and understands the character of the Bluegrass Crossings land, the drainage requirements, the current and proposed future intersections at Overbrook and Trabine Road, and the future roundabout at Trabine and Dayton Xenia and Hilltop Roads. Mitch also knows the development process in Beavercreek Township and Grief County, better than just about anyone. Additionally, I want to point out that we will work with Mr. McConnell to develop our specific site plan, cognizant of the township requirements and standards, but also mindful of our neighbors to the site. While we would like to acquire the adjoining property at 1526 Dayton Senior Road and fold it into our property, understanding that that may or may not happen, we want to be good neighbors and will work with the township regarding reasonable setbacks and screening between the properties during this specific site plan phase. Our understanding is that the adjoining property is being used for agricultural purposes. Finally, we've prepared a few slides using pictures of Calumet Farms in Lexington, Kentucky to help you better understand our intended architectural premise and color scheme. In this first slide, we wanted to provide a visual concept of what the reception and office building will be designed after, with its crisp white exterior walls, high-pitched hunter green standing seam metal roof, matching dormers with deep red accent trim, and possibly awnings, and the signature cupola and spire of Calumet Farms. This exterior is not cheap, but we recognize that we are investing not only in our business, but in our community where we live. Our second slide is intended to help provide a visual concept of what we refer to as our perimeter buildings. This style of architecture will be incorporated along Dayton Senior Road, at the corner of Trabine Road and Dayton Xenia, and at the corner of Overbrook Boulevard and Trabine. As you can see, the color palette follows what we planned for the office with one very distinct difference. If you recall, Stonehill Village was modeled after Calumet Farms, one of the most famous horse farms in Kentucky and the United States. As such, we felt it was only fitting to go to the extra added expense of having the doors special order painted two-toned with black on the top and white on the bottom, giving the passing cars the impression that these buildings are in fact Kentucky horse barns. Our third slide is representative of what the buildings will look like on the interior of the site, which will be screened and enlarged by the perimeter buildings I just described. These buildings will also have a crisp white exterior, hunter green roofs with deep red accent, and hunter green doors. Our fourth slide is provided to help illustrate the technical challenges associated with any development of this section of Bluegrass Crossings. You'll see that along the south side of Overbrook Boulevard, there are roughly 3.32 acres in Lot 8 that are non-buildable due to overhead electrical wires and their associated easements, sanitary sewer easements, gas line easements, stormwater and drainage easements, and right-of-way constraints, plus 0.79 acres in Lot 9 that are non-buildable due to the county's outlet swale, plus 0.07 acres in Lot 10 and 0.429 acres in Lot 11 that are both non-buildable. One other practical challenge with this site that most people will overlook at first glance is that there is no vehicular access to Dayton Xenia Road or Trapine Road is permitted to or from this site. The only access to this site is from Overbrook Boulevard. That restriction, coupled with the physical and underground challenges to this site, make this a difficult site to develop into some of the originally conceived concepts for bluegrass crossings, such as retail and mixed use, but do allow for a low impact development and business such as indoor self-storage facility. Finally, in our fifth slide, we wanted to help you imagine what passing traffic and neighboring properties will see from a distance. A busy corner of Beavercreek Township, blanketed with what will appear from afar to be classic Kentucky horse barns in the Calumet style form. Green grass, white Kentucky horse fencing, and what we hope will be the tallest American flag in Beavercreek Township for years to come. All tastefully appointed with an office filled with artwork depicting the majesty of the horses that came from Calumet Farms and a family-friendly business style that customers will appreciate and remember. In closing, thank you so much for your time and consideration of this request. We look forward to building this facility, which we know will be a complement to Stonehill Village and Beavercreek Township. I'd also like to ask Mary or Bob Nutter to share their thoughts on how this project aligns with the Nutter's vision for Stonehill Village. Thank you.
We will hold our questions until the end of the testimony.
All done? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead. ma'am.
Good evening. I, Mary Nutter of 925 Hilltop Road, solemnly swear that the statements I'm about to make before the Beavercreek Township Board of Zoning Appeals are the truth to the best of my knowledge and belief.
Thank you.
As I just said, my name's Mary Nutter, and I'm with Stonehill Village. So I'd like to start off with just a little short trip down memory lane. We've been cleaning out our barns, and I found this newspaper article from over 30 years ago. So I'm gonna start here, and then if you guys just wanna pass it down really quick. But it says that, it was the headline in the Beavercreek newspaper that said that the Nutters submitted a plan to rezone 1,252 acres. So a little over 30 years ago. So our vision then was a small community with its own identity to be part of the larger Beavercreek community. Since that time, we've worked very closely with the Beavercreek Township and the county to ensure that our dream would become a reality. We've kept a very watchful eye on every aspect of the development, and we're extremely proud of what's been built. In the next few months, the final layer of asphalt will soon be laid, thank God, officially opening Bluegrass Crossings at Stonehill Village. It's a wonderful place to live and now a great place to do business. So tonight, we're here to speak in support of what we feel is a perfect fit for a commercial section of Bluegrass Crossings at Stonehill Village, a state-of-the-art, full-service, indoor self-storage facility. Bob and I understand the importance of family business. There are inherent risks and challenges to starting your own business, and Tom and Kim fully understand what those are. As Kim has already said this evening, they have successfully navigated the store and walk business. We believe they presented a thorough, beautiful, comprehensive, and extremely unique build-out plan. Kim and Tom understand the vision at Stonehill Village. We worked closely with them, and from the very beginning, their vision and plan were exactly what we had envisioned. This parcel does have a few unique challenges, as Kim has already mentioned, and I think it was in your packets. But with the guidance of Mitch Kostler and Kim and Tom's willingness, they've designed a layout to support this beautiful facility. So we're really looking forward to this next chapter for Stonehill, and I want to thank you all and appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's awesome that you found that.
I know.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Robert Nutter. I'm the developer of Stonehill Village. I reside at 925 Hilltop Road. Convenient mailing address. I usually live in Beavercreek Township. Much to the chagrin of the folks at the Xenia Post Office. Anyway, also want to let you know that, of course, I agree with 100% of everything that Mary has said. I have been married now for 40 years plus. Continue to be married.
Wise.
She has a good eye for things. She is the co-developer of Stonehill Village. I remember that time period, even though I've tried to forget a lot of it. It was one of the most grueling 18 months of my life. Many of you may not remember, we were asked to rent Henley Hall so we could have the whole world come in. And not unlike going to the fire station, but it was an interesting experience nonetheless. And my first experience of really getting into this. Although I will say that I did attend zoning meetings on behalf of my dad back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, monitoring since I wasn't speaking too much. I've spent a fair amount of time in Calumet Farms in Lexington, and I would recommend that if you all happen to be in Lexington and have a couple hours, you should try to get on their tour schedule. I don't believe they leave it unlocked like they used to, because unfortunately the public has gone in and trashed things, and that's unfortunate for the whole bluegrass area, for really our society. Calumet architecture and color scheme was exactly what we had in mind for Stonehill Village when we started Stonehill Village. The white fence, some of you may remember we had white fence dating back into the 60s. In those days it was painted white fence, and we would buy paint by the 55-gallon drum and then try to figure out when the next time we're going to have to do it, water blast all the fences. So I usually got to do that job too. As far as Stonehill Village is concerned, I think with the architecture and the landscape plan that we do require in our documents, it will be a tremendous gateway to not only Stonehill Village, but to Trayvine Road. So I do recommend this. I worked, I should say I watched very carefully Tom build the facility on Orchard Lane, because we had a business back that street as well, and so much to his chagrin, probably gave him too much advice, but he did an excellent job, and I don't expect anything less here. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. Here we go. My name is Mitchell Kostler. I solemnly swear that the statements I'm about to make before the Beavercreek Township Board of Zoning Appeals are the truth to the best of my knowledge and belief. I think I'll be here to answer any technical questions if you have them related to the site development, proposed site development. We haven't actually gotten clear through that point, but we have taken a look at it to get a preliminary idea of what to do with it. And essentially, the lowest part of the project is down along Dayton Xenia Road. And the storm drainage is a significant factor, as Max mentioned. And the county engineer takes a very active and proactive and interest in the stormwater and approval process, and also goes to Ohio EPA for their final approval. But that area, there's two 12-inch culverts that drain under Dayton Xenia Road. That's all the bigger they are. So our facility will be designed large enough, and there is a significant setback required from Dayton Xenia Road. So we'll be able to use that area for our stormwater control pond. Whether it's wet or dry, it'll still be, all grassed around the edges and enough landscaping to make it very attractive, woods looking like. So it's basically, the site lends itself real well for that, and it allows the setback to be a green area, nice, and so that's pretty much it. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for? Not seeing or hearing anyone else. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against or offer other comments? Not hearing any of those. We'll go ahead and close the public portion and open it to debate amongst the members.
I have a couple of questions. Imagine that. Did the retention pond, is that going to be between the buildings and Dayton Xenia?
Oh, sorry, say that again?
The retention pond, will that be between the buildings and Dayton Xenia?
Yes, they would.
Okay. Okay.
How long do you think it would take to build this if it was approved?
We're thinking, we'd like to build it into one single phase. It's probably more likely that we'll build it in 3 to 4 phases. We're hoping to be open by next spring.
Oh, that quickly? Okay. Okay. And the conceptual designs that you have, the pictures that we were shown, they were all shorter residential. Are you looking at storage areas or buildings for larger vehicles like, trailers and that?
It would all be indoor. There's no outdoor storage permitted in bluegrass crossings. And so our intent, regardless, that would only be indoor. That would be the southwest side is where we've talked about some larger indoor RV or trailer. But that would be on the Overbrook side. So it wouldn't be as visible from Dayton Xenia as far as the aesthetics of it.
But some of the interior buildings may be tall enough to hold large UV or, recreational vehicles?
Correct.
Okay.
That's to be for our high-end RVs, and those are the people that want to have their own little enclosure
Yeah,
to secure it.
yeah.
But those would be, the elevation of the site is such that that portion of the site is the highest, and as we put in our storm water control ponds down, they'll be down close to the level of Dayton Xenia Road, and then there'll be a slope going up. So that'll be another little landscape area before you get to the building. So you actually won't see any interior buildings, and I don't know how they really got it, but the exterior buildings along Dayton Xenia Road, or that area that would be larger, would have the larger, taller exterior buildings also.
Okay, okay.
And would they follow the same concept as the rest of the facility? Because I'm thinking like the tall storage units. I'm thinking about like the ones here on Phillips. So, but the way this is kind of laid out, I mean, it seems it's gonna be far enough away from the road that you won't really see them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see the back side of the buildings from Dayton Xenia. Correct?
You're gonna see the backside of the
They'll be up on the hill.
Calumet.
They'll be on the hill.
You're gonna see the backside of the Calumet, and the roof structure of the Calumet buildings will shield line of sight for the regular interior buildings that you won't see from Dayton Xenia.
I understand that, but are the RV storage buildings gonna be on the outer perimeter or the inner buildings?
Well, we can't answer that exactly yet until we go through the site plan phase.
Okay.
And work with the companies that we get the buildings from. as
Right,
far
'cause
as
if-
the layout of-
If you would put the tall buildings on the outside, then you definitely wouldn't see the smaller buildings on the inside.
Correct.
Right. The intent is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the intent is all the buildings that face both Dayton Xenia Road about the,
Right.
concept of the horse barns and,
Oh, definitely.
And there's not gonna be any outdoor storage whatsoever. Cause I did notice that the units that you had built over there on
Correct.
Orchard have a few,
We had outdoor in the back of.
they started putting some in there. Okay. Okay.
I don't see any issues.
You answered all of mine.
Okay.
I mean, this was specifically addressed when we came back for the modifications of the 2016-101, and this was specifically talked about back then, and it was understood that this was going to be an approved use of that property way back when. So this is totally in line with the concept as far as I've known everything about this development all along. So.
I think it'd be really nice.
Yeah.
I really do.
And also the track record of Kerwin and K4 to produce exemplary structures and buildings and maintain the taste and character of the community, as well as the safety, health, and welfare of everyone. I don't really have any doubt that that's what we're going to get. And we have the backstop. Again, we're only looking at the conditional use. That's all this board is designed to look at. There's the backstop of the site plan review where zoning will go through that and we'll cross T's and dot I's over and above what our purview is in this meeting.
Yes, that's correct. We're here to discuss, so are you closing the question section?
No, keep going, keep going.
No,
whatever you
I'm done
want
with
to
it. I want to talk amongst us.
do. It is closed.
You already
Yeah,
did?
we already closed
Yeah,
it. That's
we're
why
already
we're talking.
closed, yeah.
You know, I think the whole purpose of this meeting tonight is to strictly, we all in the back of our minds know that it's already been sort of pre-approved for this use. We're not here to argue that. We're here to possibly put a few conditions on it, which is one of the only things that we can do. So I would suggest a condition that we put on it that even though they say there won't be any outdoor storage, that we put a condition that there will be no outdoor parking, storage of anything or any vehicles.
For clarification, Leo, is there a way we could word it to make it clear that regular traffic of customers parking their vehicles in like a parking area is okay? You mean,
No storage of
right,
the vehicles.
I just want to make sure I was understanding what you were saying.
That's the only thing. I just don't want it to drive by and see like you see at Phillips. Phillips buildings look really nice, but then they pile all those RVs and trailers of every size and shape all around it, and it just looks, you know. And I know that they're probably not going to do that, but I just thought that ought to be a condition.
Those restrictions don't exist on any other self-storage facility we have, correct?
Indoor, outdoor, not that I am aware of. However, it's my understanding that the conditions of the Stonehill Village HOA already exclude that, so I don't think it would be inappropriate to put those conditions in our own approval, knowing that they exist anyways. Does that make sense? I think Leo has the right idea. Like, let's say the HOA changes hands and all of a sudden allows it. We still know that we don't want it to be outdoor storage, so let's put the condition on it. I think that's reasonable.
And the only other thing I would suggest, maybe, you know, how much more would it cost to put a little bit of screening of a few more trees or bushes around the existing residential property? I know it's a farm use, but I know it's not required, but
Well, okay. Yeah, what type of screening were you thinking? You know, when Max was giving us our report, he said that you had some alternate ideas of what to put there for screening. What are you thinking?
So what we're thinking is our intent is to screen the east side yard, the west side yard, the north rear yard, at the property lines of 1526 Dayton Senior Road with 6 to 8 foot mounding, topped with a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence with mulch on both sides of the fence.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
I mean, your ultimate goal would be to buy that property, I'm sure.
It would be, but we have to move forward.
Right,
as if
right.
we cannot.
Right. Right.
I would like to adopt one of the very first condition that there will be no egress or ingress off of Dayton Senior Road, period. That is just a condition.
Well, I would think that we would, if on face value, we would initially, for sure, put it up for a vote with conditions 1 and 2 per staff's recommendation. I mean, and that's addressed in his report. So if
Okay.
we just address those 2 conditions, then that's included.
That
And
would
as
be
far
fine.
as the screening, I mean, I think we're getting into the weeds a little bit there because we're looking at the conditional use here.
Right, right.
They've already satisfied my question.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. We don't need
I
to
don't know
put a
why you-
condition on it.
We're getting into weeds.
Okay. Are there
This is
any-
our only chance as Beavercreek Township to put any conditions on this project.
The
right now.
BZA, yeah,
That's all we're here for.
right.
Okay,
That is correct.
okay. We can't tell them what it's to look like. I already know that.
Right. So, is there any other discussion? Joe? Chris?
Nope, I'm good.
Jeff?
I see everything you guys are saying is valid. I understand it, but yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to put a condition on it. I mean, especially because the other one was with the HOA, thing too, so it's like, I mean, if we do, put that in there for no outdoor storage, I mean, I just don't see, other than that. And you answered the landscape with the mounds and the trees, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, one of the things, the HOA, we have nothing, we should not consider that. Okay, that's out of our purview. So,
It's not just out of our purview. It's not something we even consider with regards to making a decision.
correct. So, do I hear a motion? Someone want to try?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve case 869 as presented with the staff recommendations for conditions 1 and 2 only.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion on the motion, call for vote.
Mr. Huntsman?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
No,
Mr. Gottwald? Ms. Gottwald?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Roberts?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mr.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
All right, board. I think I count 4-1. Motion passes. Thank you for your time tonight for this case. I appreciate it. What we'll do very quickly for the applicant is we'll draft you up what amounts to like a temporary resolution that just lets you know the outcome of the case tonight. I'll have you sign it and have the chair sign it. I will draft a resolution usually by the end of this week. And then we'll get it signed by the chair and we'll turn over a copy of that to you. But essentially, for all intents and purposes, you can move forward with your planning as if the conditional use has been approved. Just take a brief moment while we're doing this, okay?
Most certainly. We're not done yet, though. We got minutes to approve. Yep.
You two.
can say is they built this for tall people.
I noticed that the chair. I was like, I'm like all the way up, like my feet are barely touching.
Yeah, yep. They built this for tall
I
people.
want to know where these comfy chairs were at 4 years ago.
Well, you know, as it were, if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and continue the rest of the business of the meeting, just some minutes and things like that. We'll get back to that here shortly, okay? All right, let's get back to the agenda here. If the board is ready, we do have 2 sets of minutes that we presented to the board. There were some questions. I just want to address this, especially for the new members. Even if you were not present at the meeting that the minutes reference, you're not, if you vote to approve the minutes, you're not approving that the minutes represent what happened at the meeting. You're approving that the minutes are what this board accepts as the record for that case. So you may vote on those even if you were not present at the meeting.
So the normal would have been to abstain on that before. You're saying that we no longer have to do that.
Correct. We got
Well,
guidance.
we can
from-
if we choose.
You can, so yes, you can absolutely choose to abstain. So the first set of minutes that we had for you was from the April 18th, 2018 hearing, which includes cases 825, 826, and 827.
I will try out the new technique.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
sure. I like that.
Okay. Is anyone wish to comment on those minutes that has been provided? Hearing no corrections, deletions, additions, or needed for these minutes, they stand approved.
Excellent. Thank you, board. The second set of minutes we have for you is for the February 15th, 2023 meeting, which included cases number 866, 867, and 868.
No comment? Well, you wouldn't, Joe.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Okay. Mr. Hemrick, are they okay with you? The minutes, those minutes?
Yep,
No?
fine. No problem with it.
Okay. Hearing no need for corrections, deletions, additions, the minutes stands approved as presented.
I apologize. Were you waiting on me?
No,
Okay.
it's over.
Excellent. Thank you, board. I appreciate that. We are, the only thing left on the agenda here is to adjourn. Did you?
No, I'm still.
Great. So we're just working out here, getting a copy made of this rather than having Dawn write it again. She's expensive. So, all that to say, I believe the I believe the business that was placed before the board in the agenda today is concluded. The only thing we have left is to vote for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second. Just plain and simple, I'll second, yeah.
Signify yes by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, board. All right, folks, if you don't mind just sticking around for a couple more minutes while we get this ready, but we'll get